chasing it. The bounce sits up. The Dragons are steamrolling to week 2 of the finals.
Inside the last 10 seconds of the game, St George, Illawarra to the death, trying. Brown goes to the air. Going back is Mabon, leaping high and taking it in marvellous fashion with Rod Wishart. He has scored an incredible try and ties this ball game up. Bartram from 18 metres out, he strikes it nicely. St George Illawarra win for the first time in their premiership line. Here's Nathan Blacklock down the sideline, chipping over the top of Joel Kane. Got a rude surface bounce to win the game for the Dragons and book himself a New South Wales Blues Origin jumper.
Oh, I feel like we've already done this tonight. We'll get to that in a second. G'day everyone, it is episode 167 of the Red V podcast. You're with Curtis Woodward in the hot chair for Jack Clifton, who is obviously overseas and having a well-deserved holiday in Europe with his beautiful wife. I'll get to the bugs in this system in a second, but it is now, we're recording at 8:43 on Tuesday night, putting in the effort tonight, and it is entirely my fault with my old bombastic computer, which I thought would just totally work just straight off the bat. So Curtis Woodward with you as the host for the next little while Jack is away. Thankfully, the most patient man in the entire world just so happens to be a Dragons tragic, but he's also the host and the man behind the Rugby League roast all over social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you want to look. Dean, I'll just try to explain to everyone, we dead set have been trying to record for the last couple of hours, and unfortunately, like I said, this old laptop, which I just arrogantly thought would just work, has just been absolutely horrible, but we're going to try again. Apparently, I've completely wiped the entire computer, and at the bottom of Audacity here, Dean, it says, disk space remaining for recording, 2 hours and 10 minutes. I don't think we need all that. Dean, I'm so sorry, but thank you for trying again tonight on the Red V podcast.
No, I've been waiting that long. That Hook has just been extended for 2 years. So great work. No, it's been a pleasure. We'll get into it. We'll start again. We'll get it all done. But thanks to the listeners for allowing me to come on and talk about the one of the greatest clubs in my history, the Red V. Thanks to Jack for taking a little bit of time off and allowing me to come on, and Curtis for hosting. Like I said, we were talking off thing. It's a bit different hosting to co-hosting, being a guest. And I think we've swapped roles a little bit here. I've done some hosting in my time, and so have you. But you've gone from the co-host of this podcast to hosting, and I've become the guest. So look, let's hopefully we can have some fun and have a bit of a chat and get through this, mate.
Yeah, let's just try to get through it. So, look, apologies. This is very late on a Tuesday night. Dragons fans on the Red V podcast, used to this a little bit earlier in the night, but as I said, it's entirely my fault. We recorded, we got through about 35 minutes and then started having major issues. So let's get there, and let's get straight into it now with the news and updates for episode 167 of the Red V podcast. Yeah, look, it's funny that you say that too, Dean, because the whole landscape of the Dragons, since we started recording earlier tonight to now, there could be new news, but we're going to go off the run sheet of what we do have, and I do want to start, obviously a lot of Dragons fans are worried about Anthony Griffin and the fact that he has picked the exact same side that he picked last week. Obviously, Dragons fans would be very frustrated with that, considering how they played at the back end of the Broncos game, where I thought they were amazing at 18-all, and I thought they could win the game, and then obviously fell to bits as the game went on. And then there was high expectations, big crowd on a Sunday night against the Cronulla Sharks, and they just did not show up. Like, I know you're going to say that the first half the Dragons were there or thereabouts, but the class of the Sharks... I'll ask you a different question from the first version of the podcast that we tried to record earlier. Is Nicho Hynes' return? I didn't think he was going to be that good with his calf injury. I heard that he'd actually ripped it off the bone, but obviously that's not the case. But you're going to say that the Dragons were pretty good first half, but doesn't that mean that they should have expected the Sharks to get even better in the second half? Why did the Dragons fall off a cliff in that game.
Yeah, look, you got to look back to the week before as well against the Broncos, where they let in 30 unanswered points and 22 in the last 9 minutes. Why has this happened in the last 2 weeks where we've just fallen asleep at the wheel? And like Benny Hunt said in an interview after the game, where he said we just fell to water, and he sort of couldn't echo those words anymore. How have they done this, and why? To me, they looked a bit tired. Coming out in that second half, I think against the Sharkies, they made an interchange 5 minutes into the second half, which you sort of want the big guys to, especially after half time, having a big breather to get through at least 10 to 15 minutes of work. So, I think we're looking tired. I don't know what is being said at half time, but it's obviously not working. Whether that needs to be addressed in what is sort of revving these boys up, whether what we're doing at training is, have we got them adjusted to, regular NRL fixtures every week the way that we've been handling? I don't think so. So, there needs to be a few questions asked by the head office to the coaching staff, and some of these things answered over the next few weeks. Yeah,
and I didn't want to take too much of the fire away from the match review we're going to do in a minute. But, I said I meant that, absolutely. At the top, I'm going to start with Matty Johns, his comments on SEN about the Anthony Griffin situation and how quickly they've just slipped away from the rest of the chasing pack, apart from, of course, the West Tigers. He said basically today, if I was the Dragons, I'd be contacting the Roosters straight away and saying, we want to get Jason Ryles effective immediately. The Dragons don't have any more time to wait. I mean, if they are going to, if they're going through the process now of looking for a new coach and saying Anthony Griffin has every chance in the world of retaining his job, if he performs, he can apply for the job. Are we not already in dire straits, after that performance, and particularly the fall away against the Broncos last week?
I am in a little bit of a two minds here, because this is Hook's squad. He's put this together. You sort of want to give him time. Okay, you've had some bad results, but you want to, give him this year to go, right, you've got to make the 8. If you don't make the 8, it's done and dusted. Now, I should say from the start, I've never been a Hook fan. From the very beginning when they signed him, I didn't like the signing, and I don't like what he's done since. But we've given a coach, 2 years to build this squad. Give him, at least the opportunity. Otherwise, they should have punted him at the start of the season. If they had this chat, which is allegedly to have had in between the bye and the start of the season, that they're going to start interviewing other people, then it's a bit of a it's a weird one, isn't it? Like any other job that anyone has, if you're in a contract, you're almost interviewing for your job every single time, aren't you? But we always take it differently when it's a coach. It's like they've done it in a nice way. They've come out and gone, you know what? Okay, you've been the coach for the last couple of years, haven't gone that well. We might look to talk to other people, but you can also apply. And it's a really weird situation, because every other coach that's in this situation has normally been sacked, 6, 7 games in the season. So they had this inkling they should have really just, ripped the Band-Aid off, like you said before, and
in the other
at the start of the season. Yeah, and did at the start of the season and said, look, you've got this year to another coach that they hire, or an interim coach, and say, you at the end of this year, we're also going to be, looking for other people, and you've got this year to sort of prove yourself as well. Whether they did something like that or not, that might have been a bit better. But we find ourselves in this predicament now where, we've got this coach that knows that if he doesn't perform, or even if he does perform, he's not guaranteed anything at the end of the season. So it's in a weird situation that we've never sort of experienced in rugby league before.
Well, if you're the Dragons and if you're the head office, you've got all the research you need about Anthony Griffin. So if the team's not performing now, and there are still, and this sounds weird to some Dragons fans, but there's still a chance of playing finals football. They have to get ahead of this. And imagine if they do wait till round 11, round 12, and they're losing and they're not winning games, and then they still get rid of Griffin, bring in an interim coach. And that was another part of what Matty Johns said, is not necessarily an interim coach is the answer either. That's why he's saying that they they should be going all out for a Jason Riles or someone like that, who has been under the tutelage of Bellamy and now Trent Robinson. That, like I said, there's no more time for the Dragons to lose. So I'm a bit worried about that. And some Dragons fans out there are a little bit pensive that it might actually be just dollars, money. If they sack Griffin now, they're going to have to pay him out. So all these years, I wrote an article about this a couple of years ago on the 81stminute.com about, I think in the last 10 years alone, NRL clubs have forked out over $10 million on paying coaches out early because they weren't the right fit. Now we've got a situation where the Dragons absolutely refuse, no matter what, to sack Anthony Griffin, which is very peculiar. But do the Dragons not have the money to sack him and just move on and actually get on the front foot?
Yeah, well, I suppose, you got to look at the head office for that one. There's, everyone's talking about them going head to head and where the money's coming from and things like that. So it's an interesting question, and whether they're just trying to, delay the inevitable, which is, Anthony Griffin, leaving and with a payout, and where do we go after that? It's an interesting one. I don't know. Even if you want to talk to Jason Riles and Dean Young and these guys that are already in some really good systems, are they looking to leave when potentially there's a better job, the Melbourne Storm, which, Jason Riles was down there for a few years. Like, there's potential he could go back there as well if they're looking for a head coach. It's an interesting one. I don't know what happens, how. I've got no news for Dragons fans, how we get out of this, to be honest.
Yeah. And also Gordon Tallis too, who played for the Dragons. And I know you said the first time we recorded, you wish Gordy sat around a little bit longer, but he was a cult hero and started his career there at the Dragons, and he had a lot to say about the club, but didn't call out Griffin. He called out the players and the head office, and he said it from the bottom to the top, get rid of everyone. So if he's saying get rid of everyone, doesn't that not mean they've got the wrong coach as well?
100%. Like what I did say, and I want to reiterate this on the first time, was I just wish Gordon was as passionate about the Dragons now, like that he is now. I wish he was as passionate back in '96 when we needed him to play every single game that season. But hey, look, like I said, you take something from him with a grain of salt. The fact that he's attacked the head office and players should be sacked and the head office should be reorganised, but conveniently left out the coach. You've got to be talking about the whole, the players don't interact with the head office. The head office don't interact with the players. It's the coach in the middle. So if you're going to pick, both the players and the head office, you can't leave out the coach, because there obviously is an issue there as well. We haven't made finals in, how long? I can't remember the last time we did. And
16 maybe.
Yeah, and
against the Bulldogs, I think maybe.
But since Hook's been here, there's been no finals. So, it's this year or bust for him. And the fact that you want to take aim at the players, which players, come out and say which players you think should be dropped and who you're going to replace them with.
Yeah.
And that's the coach's job as well, to see that. If the players are not performing, shouldn't the coach be there going, you're not performing, and replace them? If Gordon's saying it's the players, then is the coach not able to see that? Then obviously there's an issue there with the coach as well. So, yeah, look, I'll take what he says with a grain of salt.
Isn't it funny, though, that it's something you just brought up there, and I was just wandering off in my own mind there as we get to almost 9 o'clock on Tuesday night while we record this again, is the Dragons in 96 made the grand final. If Gordon Tallis plays in 96, how different does that nucleus of that Dragons team, like, what's the finale there? I mean, they would be a completely different team. That's a story for another day. But yeah, that's
another podcast episode, actually. I've never actually thought about that, but a great point and probably needs discussion. So,
well, as we continue with our news and updates, Aaron Woods has officially been confirmed as traded to the Manly Sea Eagles. Apparently, from what you hear from people through rugby league, he hasn't seen eye to eye with Anthony Griffin for a little while, but he's been traded for Viliami Fafita and Ali Tuitavaki. And then Moses Sully this afternoon comes out with a sound bite, and I think we already agree on this, that it's taken a little bit out of context in the fact that he's kind of just saying Viliami did not want to leave Manly, but then he also said, Sully said, I didn't want to join the Dragons. But what do you take of that? Is that more just Sully just saying, I was happy and at Manly, or I was fine with that? Or is that something that if the club was maybe performing a little bit better on and off the field, should he have said it differently? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, it's a great media soundbite. I'll give it that, and great headline as well. But look, it's not taken out of context. So he probably, if he had his time back, Moses, he would say it differently, I think. But I love his honesty as well in saying it, because I don't think it comes from a place of like malice. He's not saying, I never wanted to come to the Dragons. He was just simply saying that where he was probably happy playing at the Manly Sea Eagles, but he knew that his future wasn't going well there, that he needed to make a change and go somewhere else, and it happened to be the Dragons. So I just think he didn't choose his words that right. I don't think we should castrate him for it. And I think, like I said, if he had his time back, he'd take it back. And I'm pretty sure he's probably more angry with the fact that he sort of dobbed in a mate. If he's talking to Fafita, if it was, I'm not sure who he was speaking to, but if he's speaking to whatever the player it was, that they told him that in confidence, they probably didn't want him blasting it all over the next media conference. So I think that's probably what he's more angry at. And yeah, look, I don't think it's that bad what he said. I think it's just blown up a little bit out of proportion.
All right, let's move on. Let's go to lower grade results for the Dragons club. Congratulations to the South Coast Illawarra Dragons. Back-to-back Laurie Daly Cup champions. That's 2 years in a row. They outlasted the Monaro Colts 26-24, so that's back-to-back for them. Great stuff for the local region down on the South Coast. New South Wales Cup, Newtown Jets 30, the Dragons 16. New South Wales Women's Premiership, Steelers 22, Mounties 12. Sharks 46, St. George 12. SG Ball results, Steelers 26, Raiders 10, St. George 26, Sharks 20. And even though we've had time to adjust for the second recording of this podcast, still didn't have time to bring up the Harold Matts results. But if you are interested in the Harold Matts, jump on to nswrl.com.au and you'll get that one there. Before we move on to the match review, which I'm sure Dragons fans really don't want to hear about because we've all been talking about it since Sunday night, we do have the Who Am I question, and this is the first time, Dean, that I've had the chance to actually do my own Who Am I question. I've been on the other side of it a few times. And I know that you're thinking about Google, and you probably already did the first time round. So let's give everyone else a chance. So I'm going to hit you with 5 facts, and like unlike Jack, who gives another clue a little bit later in the podcast, we're just going to hit you with 5 facts, and then if you do get it right, please send through what you think on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I think Jack's got a Red V podcast account on Instagram as well. But also email as well. So five facts here. A Tamworth junior, he was graded by the Dragons while still in high school. He finished his career with the Magpies in 87, but could only manage 3 games. He had 2 stints with the Dragons. He was an outside back, and he played in the Dragons team in the 1985 Grand Final. So I'm just going to hit you with that already. Are you punching that into Google now, or did you already do it before?
I did a little bit of research before, so I'm not gonna give it away because, like, to be honest, even the facts that you gave me straight away, I had no idea. I had to go back to the 1985 team and have browse my eye through the team and through my research. I think I might have it, but we'll at the end of the show when you announce the who the person is, I'm gonna have a shot.
All right, mate. We'll leave it till the end, and we'll let you have the
just real quick as well. Harold Matts, just you want to throw that in? Sharkies went over the Dragons 14-10 at Harold Matts last Saturday.
What about the Steelers? You got the Steelers there as well?
I've got the Steelers. Sorry, Steelers 30-12 over the Raiders.
Go the Steelers. Big weekend for the Steelers.
Yep.
All right, let's get into it. Unfortunately, we have to do it. Let's talk really quickly. I know we're a little bit pressed for time now that we're going later into the night, but we will do this now. It's the match review versus the Cronulla Sharks. Sharks 40, Dragons 8. Another very disappointing evening for the Dragons.
Do we have to do this?
Yes, we have to.
Okay.
I heard
No,
that.
look-
I heard that over the. But go on.
No, I was just 40 to 8 against the local derby. It's hard to take in. It's hard to talk about, but I suppose we have to get into it and do it. Look, I was optimistic going into this game. I thought even after the week before the collapse in the last 10 minutes, I thought they were tired, hot, all that sort of stuff. You could throw a few excuses out there. Watching this game, I was very. I think I was like everyone with Nico Hines coming in. The majority of people thought he's underdone. He's not quite ready, and how wrong we were. He just absolutely carved us up in that second half where we were absolutely terrible. But look, the first half, there are some positives out of that. I thought, our middle running was good. We had some great pressure in that second quarter, the second 20 minutes of that first half. We put together some back-to-back sets and ended up scoring a try off it, and was very positive. A little bit of wind out of the sail when the McInnes-Sloan incident. People have their differing opinions on that incident, which led to the Ramian try. You felt a bit flat after that. We were thinking, we're on top a bit, and then they do that and take the lead into the second half. And actually, nearly could have been more. Apart from it was Teague Wilton made the break thanks to a Nico Hines pass and ends up throwing the ball forward. It could have been a lot more. But yeah, then into the second half, very very lackluster start. I think we had our first interchange after about 5 minutes, which is interesting. We looked very tired. And then it was just the Nico Hines show. He just took over and absolutely dominated us. And I think it was, what was it, about 28 points. 28 points. So 40, they were 12-8 at half time, and they put on 28 points in that second half and absolutely blitzed us. So, yeah, very, very worrying signs for Dragons fans heading into next week. But, yeah, it wasn't a great watch that second half.
Yeah, look, and it must be frustrating, even for a neutral like myself. And I'm coming from a background where, and I've spoken about this ad nauseum with Jack on previous podcasts, where Jack was a little bit hesitant to talk about Jacob Little and how he might have just been another blasé signing from the club. But he's fit, he's firing, and right now Jacob Little is the best player in the club. Now, I'm not saying long term, like Sloan is not going to surpass him, and that will happen quickly. Sullivan, those likes, they are going to be poster boys for the Dragons. They're gonna drag kids through primary schools and get Dragons jerseys back on their backs, and they'll be the posters in the kids' rooms. But right now, Jacob Little has been the best thing to happen to the Dragons. So when the Dragons have played good at stages so far this season, I'm specifically talking about the Titans game and also the 60 minutes against the Broncos, where they end up conceding 4 tries in the last 10 minutes. I can't believe that after last week and only playing half a game against the Broncos, Umbai was on too long against the Broncos. Little came on and the team completely changed. And then when the game was there to be won, they took Little back off. And then in this game against the Sharks, I couldn't believe when I checked the stats again today that Little only played 39 minutes. And he's still on the bench this week. And that's why we haven't gone through the team list this week, because it's the same team that Griffin announced last week. That's why we haven't done it as Jack would do when you go through the 1 to 17, because it's the same team. Like to you or to other Dragons fans, and I've said this the last couple of weeks, the Dragons are at their best before the ball's kicked off. So if your best chance of winning is from kickoff, why isn't Jacob Little playing more minutes and why isn't he starting?
And also, like, he's coming on too late, isn't he? He's coming on after around about 30 minutes each time, and I think, maybe get him on a little bit earlier. Maybe get him on after 20 minutes or even like 15, 20 minutes. Just get him on and try and break open that middle where you're getting that interchange of the forwards and let him sort of take over, because he is showing spark when he comes on. And I agree with you. He's, obviously I think Ben Hunt's our best player, and he has shown it probably been in patches this year, but Jacob Little is up there when we're talking about players performing for the Dragons. So, get him on, and hopefully that's what we see this week. Do we see him on a little bit earlier and play a little bit more minutes? Hopefully finish the game in that 9 jersey as well, instead of getting taken off. So wait and see, mate. Let's hope for some change, because we desperately need it. Even against what I think is a bit of an underdone, like a few players out with this Dolphins team.
Was Nico that good on the weekend, or did the Dragons make him look better than what he was?
3 of one and half dozen the other. What is it? 6 of one, half a dozen the other.
I don't know.
No, look, he's a great player. There's no doubt about it. But you look at the first half, he was not non-existent, but he wasn't, as dominant as he was in that second half. So why wasn't he? And the fact is that we were tired. We were lacking in that middle. We were lacking in effort areas, and he took advantage of them, as did the whole Sharks team. So, look, I think he's a great player. I'm not taking anything away from him, but we were a cause in that as well. Our lackluster efforts were definitely a cause for him looking outstanding in that second half.
Did you? And I know we did this the first time around as well, but I think Ben Hunt's comments post game you touched on before, very depressing, and the press conference as well. I mean, where's this? What's the future? Like, this is what I'm worried about, and I'm getting frustrated about this. And I'm just a neutral dean, but because Jack's dragged me into this podcast, I'm showing more interest in the Dragons and their performance than my own club, because they're worse, right? But I'm looking at the Dragons and thinking, you guys have got the nucleus. You've already won a game. You were with the Broncos for 60 minutes. Then you come out at home with 15,000 people there, the majority of them Dragons fans. We've spoken previously on this podcast about fair weather Cogra fans, or whatever you want to call them, down the southern part of Sydney, which is fair enough too. Like, you turn your nose up to going to a Dragons game if you live down there, and the cost of living in Sydney at the moment and all that stuff. It really needs to be a day, and you need to be excited to get there. To go to a game after. And I'm thinking of maybe there's probably about 6 or 7 fans there on the weekend that weren't there for the first game against the Titans, that said, you know what, I'm going to put my jersey on. There's something happening here that I can get behind. And then you come out and show that, and it was almost like I don't want to say gave up, but it just wasn't there. That they couldn't go with them, and they just got lost. They got lost in attack, and I feel like this has been happening for a long time with the Dragons. And this is a completely different argument, but I feel like there's 2 different parts of the Dragons right now, with Anthony Griffin right in the middle, that's kind of gritting his teeth and saying, yes, we need to go with the kids, but he's also showing a lot of loyalty to Ben Hunt, who's also at times overplaying his hand in games and overriding plays when they look like they're on the attack through the middle, and then Ben Hunt takes a play and they get stuck on a corner. Like, to you, does it look like there's a few different things going on?
100%. I remember listening to Darcy Evans speak about it, the difference in age between him, a leader at the club, and some of the young guns coming through, and how there was a lot of media speculation that he didn't get along with the younger players and a bit of disconnect and all that, which he actually came out and said, yeah, there is, because I'm 35, these guys are 20, they're playing PlayStation, I'm going for coffees with the family of an afternoon. They're at different generations, but they still work together on the field. They still have that connection on the training paddock, and he's changed his ways to accommodate that, and they've also changed their ways to accommodate the quote unquote old fella of the group. So I think Dragons are in that similar position where they've got all these young guns coming through, and they want to start showing what they're worth on the field. And you've got this leader in Ben Hunt, who is a different generation to them, is linking with the coach, which a lot of the younger ones don't agree with. It's sort of up to him to sort of change and get these young players on board. And whether that's, I don't know, bring some of these young fellas in and put them as part of the leadership and say, you're going to be the spokesperson to all the other young guys. What we're going to tell you is what you're going to pass on to them. And we want to inspire you to be a leader of this group, and then thus inspiring some of these younger kids.
Yeah.
Whether that something like that needs to happen, and whether it's already happening, whether they're trying to do it and it's not working, I don't know. But that would be something if I was in there, and not knowing what happens day to day. It's a bit hard as a fan on the outside, but that's probably one of the first things I would look at. I remember, we spoke off thing too, when you're playing with a local footy out in the bush. Doesn't matter whether you've got a 16-year-old or a 40-year-old lined up against you. You're all part of the team, and you appreciate what these young ones are doing compared to what these older guys, all the knowledge they have. So, sometimes you're going to bring some of this older mentality in, and some of this, togetherness sort of thing, instead of, I'm just getting paid, hundreds of thousands of dollars each year, and I'm just going to go out for myself. You need to have this, you got to buy into some of the older guys, but you've also got to allow yourself, if you're one of these young guys, to go, right, I've got to, give something up as well if we're going to be successful. You can't have it everything your way.
Yeah, and look, just really quickly as well, something that I think of is yes, the Roosters had a more talented roster, but when they brought Cooper Cronk in and chucked him into the midst there, it wasn't just the fact that the Roosters were already a good team and Cooper Cronk was a superstar at Melbourne Storm. It's that they immediately bought in to the story. They were part of it. They were behind him. They were with him. They were next to him. And I just feel like even if Cooper Cronk at his peak was parachuted into the Dragons right now, I don't think you'd get much different result. I just feel like there's kids there that are ready to play football, but I just feel like they're not getting the right directive. But it's a difficult time for the Dragons, for Dragons folk. I mean, really quickly,
I feel like they're missing a little bit of inspiration, like you just spoke about there. Like they're missing that inspiration, and whether it's, I've listened to Hook speak. I don't think I've been inspired by anything he said. To be honest, and no disrespect to Ben Hunt, I'm sure like when he gets in there and he's very passionate.
He's
seen
a
him
country
in
Queensland
State
boy
of
too,
Origin.
though, isn't he?
Hey,
he's a country Queensland boy too, isn't he?
Exactly, yeah. And I've seen him when he's spoken in Queensland camps, and the way he reacts in there, where he's so passionate, and you just wonder, like, is that same passion here at the Dragons when you're talking to those young fellas? Yeah. When he's getting talked to by Hook, the least inspiring person in the fucking world, I reckon. Excuse my French. That, is this? What are these young kids getting inspired about? How are they thinking, I'm going to go out there and I want to perform? Every kid should be going out there going, I want to perform 100%. But let's be honest. You need a leader that's going to go, right, we want you, to do everything you possibly can to get this win today. And then you want the players to go, right, I'm going to believe in you and go out and do it. If they're not getting that, then that's an issue.
I just had a thought too before we go on to the preview for the Dolphins game really quickly. And I touched on this before, is that there is a story out there that the Dragons or a part of the Dragons board, because it is a 50-50 split between two separate parties that run the board, is that there's one section of the Dragons club that absolutely will not consider paying Griffin out because of the money that he's on. And then there's another side that says we need to move on. We need to get rid of him. And then it's almost like you just said, like he's very droll. He's very straight to the point. And he doesn't have much to say. He's got his political views apparently as well. Whatever, political views has nothing to do with football. But and I just chuckle when he keeps picking the same team. Is he challenging the Dragons to sack him if they keep? Because in one sense, he would be thinking, I know best for this team. I know this team. This is the best team to play. But then in another sense, he keeps picking the same blokes over and over again. Is there a bit of ego, and also maybe in the back of his mind he's thinking, well, if we lose and I'm wrong, then I'm going to get paid out. But if we win, then my selections were correct to start with.
I honestly hope
That's a
not.
very
because,
hypothetical question.
oh yeah, but if he's looking, I'm just going to get sacked or challenge him to get sacked, mate. After this, I don't think any club's gonna hire him. He's done.
I don't think he wants to coach another NRL club. I reckon I'm pretty sure he came from a scouting background, and then Bennett found him, and the only reason he got the job at the Panthers to start with was a kind of like he had. I don't even think he meant it, but he was standing at Suncorp Stadium in the tunnel when he was coaching the Broncos, and just so happened that Gus Gould rocked up next to him, and then like within 1 minute, Gus Gould apparently said, "Yep, I like this bloke. I'm going to get him down to Penrith." A bit like Brian Smith got cornered in an elevator one day with Daniel Anderson, and Anderson
Really?
got hired to the Parramatta Eels as an assistant coach or something because Anderson just blew Brian Smith away in like 2 minutes flat and got a job.
The old elevator speech,
Yeah, so
elevator pitch. Yeah,
yeah, so I reckon Griffin's going to be all right. I don't think he cares about if he coaches in the NRL for the next 10, 15 years. I reckon he's just thinking day to day, and he couldn't give a shit about what the media says. He's just going to do it his way until it's done.
very disappointing if that's the case for Dragons fans. But yeah, I would hope not. I would hope he'd want to, try and win and try and, go out on a high. Even if he, I've done with coaching. I don't want to coach anymore. If you are, quit. But if you're not, go out in a high and try and win some games.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that he's given up and he's just picking the team that he thinks is going to win. I think that he, in his head, says, my team that I'm picking is the best way forward and we're going to turn a corner.
Yeah.
And you know what? If I'm wrong, then I'll fall on my sword. I feel like that's what he's doing.
Yep.
But anyway, all right, let's move on. Let's go into team preview or game preview. It's the Redcliffe Dolphins. Are we allowed to call him Redcliffe? I call him Redcliffe.
Yeah, I call him Redcliffe. That's where the Leagues Club is. That's where I actually went up there for Friday night, the Dolphins Broncos game. It was massive. Beautiful. Went up to Redcliffe, checked out the Leagues Club. So yeah, they're not allowed to call themselves the Redcliffe Dolphins, but we are. I'm sick of everyone going, they're not part of a geographical location. Yeah, they are the Dolphins, but they're playing Redcliffe. They just can't call themselves that because of some stupid QRL rule. So they just don't get footy up there. But
let's do that now. Team game preview for this weekend. 5:30 Wollongong, the Dragons versus the Dolphins. No team changes, like we just said, for the Dragons. The first question I've got in my mind, Dean, is that the Redcliffe Dolphins are short some players, some of their stars, and everyone is waiting for the Dolphins to fold. To me, and I thought the big challenge last week, and I wrote an article on my website about this, was that Wayne Bennett, he would have been grinning to get his other players up, like the likes of Tom Gilbert and these kind of blokes, saying like, Felice Kafusi's out. What are you blokes going to do in while he's gone? And they stood up against the Broncos and almost beat them up there at Suncorp. To me, I just hope the Dragons can play for 80 minutes, because if they do, they've got the points in them to win by 20 points. But my worry is that, again, they will fall asleep and in important passages of the play, that they'll bleed points and keep the Dolphins in the game. And the Dolphins are the kind of team that just will not go away, particularly if it goes to Golden Point or the back end of the game.
Yeah, look, I think I'm a bit more optimistic about the Dragons. I think they can get the win here. Dolphins still scare me. Like, seeing them, what they did against the Broncos was unbelievable. Like, I honestly didn't really give them a chance. I thought they were going to get flogged there, and then to be leading and then only be down by 4 points for a long time near the end there, was unbelievable. So I think Sean O'Sullivan for them is going to be a big loss. They do get Jeremy Marshall-King back. But I still have confidence about this Dragons team, especially at home. And especially after, I really want to see, like, everyone can excuse the Broncos thing for just a period of like 9 minutes where the Broncos just went mental and were tired and stuff. But everyone coming out bagging the Dragons for this second half collapse against a rival team at home has surely got to fire them up. So, look, if I don't see anything from them this week, against this Dolphins team are going to be very surprised and very disappointed. I think, this is the week that they take all that and they go, right, if they're serious, if they want to win and they want to perform, that they step up. And maybe that is, you spoke about the challenge that Griff's shown to this team. He's like, you know what? I picked you guys last week for a reason. I'm going to pick you again this week for the same reason. This is now or never. Like if you don't beat the Dolphins without a couple of star players, that the head's going to be on the chopping block next week. Wait and see.
Yeah. And I can't remember. Was it Buzz Rothfield a couple of days ago said, or maybe yesterday or today, that Griffin has 6 weeks to prove himself. That's like what, round 10, round 11? I reckon it's this week.
I think round 10, Magic round.
No, yeah. But I reckon it's right now.
I 100% agree with that.
It has to be right now. If it's not right now, then it's never for the Dragons. If the Dragons come out on Saturday against understrength Dolphins, who have been so up to start the season and incredible to start the year, if the Dragons fold against the Dolphins and they do not sack Anthony Griffin after that game, then if I was a Dragons fan, I'd be saying, what the hell's going on? But anyway, let's move on.
Just on those Buzz comments, he said 6 weeks he got to prove it, and he actually said, "Oh, you got an easy draw." I looked at it and I went, again, it's Buzz, so you take it with a grain of salt. But you got the Dolphins this week at home. We then go away to the Titans, the Raiders, and the Roosters on Anzac Day. Back home against the Bulldogs before Magic round against the Tigers. That's, to me, the way the draw is at the moment, that is not an easy draw. Going away to the Titans at 4:00 on a Sunday.
The Titans are my smoking to make the finals, man.
Yeah. Canberra again on a Sunday. They're there and thereabouts for the 8 this year. That's going to be tough. Roosters. Come on,
there's no easy draw. There's no easy draw.
We could legitimately. That's not an easy draw. We could legitimately be 0-4 in the next 4 games. So, it's going to be very risky. I'm with you. If we don't beat the Dolphins this week, and it's almost like, if we do beat them, okay, Hook's safe and everyone shuts up and we just let it be.
But it's how they play as well.
Exactly. But if they lose this one, 100%, I'm with you. Hook should not have a job come Monday morning.
Yeah, okay. All right, let's move into fan questions on episode 167 of the Red V podcast. Curtis Woodward and Dean Messiter with you. Jack Clifton, of course, is overseas at the moment. Let's jump into these, Dino.
Let's go, mate.
First one is from Herb. He says, thoughts on Mick Potter or Jeff Tuvey as coaching options? And this is, a lot of Dragons fans are just assuming that Griffin's on the way out, which is fair enough. Thoughts on Mick Potter or Jeff Tuvey? Des and Flanagan have a stench about them, to me. Riles and Young, unproven leaps, but might be the breath of fresh air needed. Downfall equals old boys club. A bit to take in there. So I think what he's saying is, you got it?
Yeah. I think, look, I agree with Herb on I don't mind Mick Potter. I like what he did with the Bulldogs there at the end of
Dragons legend.
Last season. Yep. He would buy into it. He's still young enough that he would, and seeing what he did with the Bulldogs last year, I think the young players would sort of buy into it. Jeff Tuvey, look, I'm not sold on him. I agree saying like Des and Flanagan, although Flanagan has a bit of a history with us, I don't think he's the go, and neither with Des. I don't think we replace an old guy that might have let the game go a little bit with another guy that sort of let the game go as well. Riles and Young, interesting. It's like, do you want to bring these young guys in and give them a chance at this young club? Will successful guys from successful programs coming in, will that bring that breath of fresh air, like Herb's saying? And I sort of agree it probably will. But it's also, do these players want to take the jump from a handy assistant and a very successful thing to a really big challenge at the Dragons, which is not the Dragons of old? It's not where you come in going, this is the once brilliant club that it was. That it's not that now. So, there's a lot of pros and cons for a young coach coming in. Mick Potter, I do when you sent this through, I was like, you know what, Mick Potter's a really good choice here, and I think he could still do some wonders with the club. And whether it's like, do we, ask him if he wanted to come in and do what like Wayne Bennett's doing at the Dolphins? I'm going to coach for 3 years and hand over to someone. Do we bring in saying, hey Mick, you've got 3 years. We're possibly going to look at someone else in that next time, but would you be interested in doing something like that and then staying on as an assistant to these ones? Well, that's an option. It's worth the question to him, I think. No disrespect to Mick, but maybe he doesn't want to be a head coach either. So, good question there by Herb.
Johnny says, I'm over the Dragon Schmozzle, but I'm interested in one thing. Paul Kent keeps mentioning one of the issues with the joint board is that one side doesn't want to put money in, and therefore the other side says, why should we? Would like to know who the tight asses are. Well, I think we kind of just spoke about that, and we're just kind of speculating too. But does that, to add a question onto Johnny's question, if you do have, and it's a bit like another club we won't mention here, which I try to support but really can't get behind at the moment. But if you've got feuding boards that have different ideas on direction of the club, I mean, how hard is that to make decisions for the betterment of the actual team?
Yeah, it's not a great thing, and I think this is the issue we've always had, both us and the Tigers, that we're always going to have different heads from different sides not agreeing with each other, and from that you lose an identity as well. You lose that culture that from one club or from both clubs. Sorry, that they have different. Every club has its own unique culture and unique things about them, and when you try and put them two together, yeah, sure, you might get some success early, which both the Dragons and the Tigers did. It's after a while it sort of died off, and we've lost that sort of lackluster, the luster, I suppose, of a one successful, either one part or both parts of each club. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm not too big on the knowing which factions are the tight asses here, Johnny, but I'm not sure if you know a little bit more than me there, Kurt. But yeah, look, you sort of wish that we could get on board and just worry about playing some good footy.
Winston Hills Dragon says, did everyone else notice just how poor Zach Lomax was on the day, I'm assuming Sunday? Back turned to the play on more than one occasion, especially when Hines was going down the blind side and in general seemed simply disinterested.
Yeah,
Did you notice that? Or is that in general something that Lomax needs to fix in his game?
In general, he does. Like, I think he's a very big confidence player that, he needs to get some wins early on. Otherwise, it's going to be a bad day for him. And on the weekend, he missed his two kicks that he had. He had some misses in defence and some passes not go his way. And I think that severely affects how he's going to play for the rest of the game. Like you saw it last year with his flick pass. When it comes off, it's great, but he threw it that often that it was just, shit, here he goes. It's Zach's throwing the no-look bloody flick pass again, and it just wasn't coming off. So, he's, like I said, he's a very confident player. If he can get those things early, he plays a lot better. But yeah, look, I did notice that, Winston. It's a habit sort of grown into his game, and I wish he'd get rid of it and sort of focus a bit more on those little effort areas. That's what I'm glad you see it, and I'm sure a lot of the other fans do see these little effort areas as well. And we need to pick up our act on it.
Harry, which is a good name, I like that. What colour sock is on the microphone this week? Harry, I can tell you, unfortunately, after Sunday night, the coloured sock on the microphone tonight is black, white, and blue. Unfortunately, all right.
I will let Harry know. I'm actually recording this out of my garage at the moment too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a bit hard when one bloke's in Campbelltown, another one's in Parks. But
correct, yeah.
The dynamite of modern day technology is amazing. Last one for you, Dino, tonight, and we'll let you go, mate. It's been a long night, and I know it's we're only 50 minutes into this podcast, but we've already done this once. Question from Michael. What will we beat the Dolphins by on Saturday night? 20 plus?
Yeah, I'm with Michael.
How much would that be paying?
Oh, jeez.
Get on that. Actually, look, I understand Red V Podcast does not have a betting partner, but I am on sports bet with some mates, bet with mates, whatever. And I got an email today saying an extra 100 on Saturday morning from 9 a.m. or something, an extra $100 in your account. You know what? I'm going to put $100 on the Dragons 13 plus on Saturday night.
13 plus.
Well, you can't. Can you go 20 plus? You can't. You can't do that.
Yeah, well, 13 plus will get you 410. I know that.
Yeah,
I'm having a quick look now to see if you can go 20.
I might ring him and say 50 plus. Can you get 50 plus?
Oh,
I'll ring Sugar Cane and see what's doing.
You're keen now, but no. Look, I'm with Michael here. I'm confident. I'm confident of a big win on the weekend. I think the boys step it up. I'm yet to throw in the towel on the season. And I think the boys step it up. And 20 plus is a good margin. I don't mind that. If I can find it. Yeah, no.
Dragons fans, man. Dragons fans.
Yeah.
No, look. I love the positivity and truly, because like I said before, I'm invested in the Dragons now. I watch them closer than any other team because I'm on this podcast on Tuesday night. I just hope there's some bounce back. It's not for Anthony Griffin. It's for the kids in the team that deserve to start playing some good footy and start seeing some good yarns about them and get back in the winners' circle as well. Dean, mate, thank you.
Here you go, real quick. I'll throw this at you. St George Illawarra Dragons to win by 21. To win by 21, we'll get you $750. 21 or more.
All right,
we'll get you $750.
That's where we hunches go on Saturday morning.
There you go.
Dean,
Curtis, it's been a pleasure, mate.
Yeah, and look, again, thank you for your patience. People out there listening to the podcast tonight or tomorrow morning on their commute to work or in the car or if they're looking after their kids in the morning, I know, I can't remember his name, but there's a new father out there that's a big Red V podcast fan. He's got kids. He's got brand new baby twins, and he gets woken up at different times of the morning. I know Jack's not here, guys, but we're going to do our very best over the next couple of weeks. But I hope you enjoyed tonight. Dean, thank you so much, mate. And if you do want to follow Dean... I forgot
to mention as well, just really quickly, Jack Bostock. We mentioned in the first one. Jackie Bostock making his debut for the Dolphins, a Wollongong kid.
And playing against the Dragons in Wollongong. Against the Dragons.
Now, do yourself a favour, head to the Dolphins' social media. They've got him where he's calling both his mum and dad. It's a very special video where he gets to let him know that he's making his debut. So, yeah, keep an eye on him. All the rest, I hope they all play like shit. But, Jackie, I hope you... if anyone's going to score a try for the Dolphins, I hope it's you. And you play well. But, yeah, shout out to one of the Dragons juniors.
Good call too. And funnily enough, he's in my Supercoach squad. I might have to promote him this weekend just for this game. Hope he doesn't score too many points. Just enough for me to beat whoever I'm playing. But good call from Dean. Dean, thank you so much, mate. You've been very patient with me and my computer tonight. And we will speak to you next Tuesday, mate. Thank you so much.
We will. Thanks, mate. And I'll tell you my story because I never got to do it again this week on how I became a Dragons fan. We'll do that next week.
Yeah, we'll do it next week, and we'll do a deep dive on Dean Messiter and the Rugby League roast. On behalf of Dean, this has been episode 167 of the Red V podcast. On behalf of Dean, I've been Curtis Woodward, and in the words of Jack Clifton, let's go those mighty Dragons.